Tēnā koutou katoa, nā me I nui kia koutou. E te atua, kia tau iho rā, tō āroha ki runga I a mātou. E pōngonga, e whakapono ana, mātou ki a koe. I runga te ingoa o tō tama ihu karaiti, tō mātou kai whakaora. Āmeni. God, thank your beloved Son, our servant, who bestowed his love on us, his faithful followers, his servants, of your Son, Jesus Christ, who should be our Saviour. Amen. Aue, te ariki, aue, ko koe te ariki, te kai whakaora, mo te ao katoa, ko ēnei tō iwi, e inoi atu nei, aroha tia mātou, manaki tia mai mātou, ki roto I ēnei wā, aue, te ariki, aue, aue, te ariki, aue. Morena, morena, morena. I thought I'd do karaki this morning and do our little himini this morning. Why? Because I need to practice. And I just thought I'd do something different today and make it more personal. Why? Because there's a lot of kaupapa I want to talk to you about today. So I wanted to lay the foundation for that kōrero. And really what that kōrero is about, if you saw on my title and my description, there's a number of topics that I want to talk about. Morena, Des, and Sharon and Catherine, Mins, Deborah, Patiri here, Katrina, thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for coming on and putting your comments up and saying morena and kia ora. So the weather here in the Waikato has been a bit makariri, a bit overcast, a bit sunshining, a bit like us, a wee wawa. The weather doesn't know what it wants to do, and nor do we. There's just so much to talk about, and I've talked about different kaupapa in different lives, and what I wanted to do today was try and bring because there's a lot going on, whānau, and it's even hard for me to keep up actually. But I thought it was really important that we have a global view of what's happening globally. There's a lot of stuff happening. So what did I put on my up on my description? I said, what is essential in a free and democratic society is that we have 1, food security, 2, fuel security, 3, protection of our God-given rights. And so under fuel security, I'm going to talk about Marsden Refinery and why it is important to our nation. 2, I want to talk about food security and claims that a proposed bill in Victoria would make growing your own food illegal. And that's been circulating around Facebook and other social media outlets. And what it did for me was just go, even though one side can argue, well, that's not the case, and the other side can argue, well, that is the case. What that did for me, whānau, was say, well, there's an issue. So whoever we elect to get into Parliament, we have to ensure that they protect our food security. Without kai, we're goners, eh? That they protect our fuel security. Without Marsden Point, we're goners, right? And that they're going to protect our Bill of Rights. Without our Bill of Rights, we are living under tyranny and under fascism, and the social credit system that has been running in China. And if you look at it, if you listen, and I've listened to and watched so many videos that yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff, and it's trying to pull out, I think, the main points and the concerns. It's not actually getting into a conspiracy debate. What these videos highlight to me are what are people's fears, and what fears have been drummed into us to create tyranny against the people, right? So we have to look at what is a social credit system now that's already been trialed and run in China, and what some of the elite are saying, including Trudeau, including Klaus Schwab's, even Bill Gates, Billy Gruff, Billy Goat Gruff, Bill Gates. They all put China up there as the model system. Now, only a tyrant would use China as a model system. The rest of the world need to go, holy shit. Is that what we want? So those are the types of debates that I want to bring all of this together, whānau. And then the final one is a tyranny of the unelected and the elite. And I want to talk about the WHO pandemic treaty, monkeypox, which some people on Facebook are calling Money Pox. They dropped the K. That's the silent K, right? And I thought that was hilarious. But the situation isn't hilarious because it's all the timing. It's all the timing. Is the timing a coincidence? And there are things going around, virally going around on Facebook to say that it's no coincidence. But I don't want to talk about any conspiracy theories. I just want us to have a debate about the issues. The World Health Authority pandemic treaty, for one. And does that kick in the tyranny of the unelected? So those points are really important for us to just delve through, whānau, just to peel away at them, and I've got them listed. So the first one, and I did do a live on the oil refinery, right? And it's really important that we understand that 85% of our fuel came from Marsden Point. Now we're only living off the reserves. And so if the Prime Minister and her wise men and wise women don't come up with a plan, we are effed, whānau. We are effed. We used to own a transportation company, and we were reliant on our fuel. Farmers are reliant on our fuel. If we don't have no fuel, those truckies, the organisation that we once belonged to, will not be able to provide us with the necessities of life, whānau. That's kai. That's kai. So because this government has deconstructed our oil refinery, they have also put at risk our food security. Now, who in their right mind would do that? Right? So they spend $175 million investing into Marsden Point so that we could have it for future uses. But all of a sudden, this government thought in their wisdom that they will deconstruct and use it as basically a stop-off point to bring in international fuel that we can't guarantee the quality of, and we may have to refine anyway, and it's going to cost us 3 times the amount of money anyway. It's like, who the freaking hell is running our country? What are they doing? So hearing these types of kōrero, not even on Māori TV. That when Māori TV first started out, I was really proud because they would bring out stories that mainstream wouldn't talk about, dare talk about. Now, Māori television are no different to mainstream because they're following the same narrative. Come on, Māori journalists. I know you follow my lives. I know you get stories from my lives. Don't give me credit for it, but you get stories from my lives. Do an investigative documentary on New Zealand's oil refinery. There's a major topic there. You're protecting our future generations, your tamariki and your mokopuna, if you do a documentary on what's happened at Marsden Point. So $175 million they invested for the expansion and maintenance of our oil refinery, and then they go, whoa, no, sorry, we don't think that's a good idea. Now we're going to steal $200 million from the taxpayer to deconstruct it and reconstruct it into something else. We don't even own it now, whānau. And yet we're paying the bill to deconstruct and reconstruct it into a, what would you call it? It's just a stopover. I don't know what we call it. It's not a refinery anymore. It's a stopover for imported fuel. And then if that imported fuel is kaka, then we have to refine it again. I mean, for goodness sake, has common sense left these politicians? We need to get them out, whānau. They're destroying our society. And any bastard that's going to argue against that, you better come up with a good argument, because I've already done the research. Why did they spend $175 million of yours and my taxpayers' money to expand Marsden Point and then say, no, it's not a good idea? Now they're spending $200 million of mine and your taxpayers' money to deconstruct, and another $60 million on top of that to demolish what they don't need. And then they're going to, and then a private entity will have control over that refinery. Tell me, where is that good governance? Labour Party, the sixth Labour Party run under Jacinda Ardern, with the most Māori Labour members of Parliament ever in our history. E ki rā. So that's the first one. Fuel security. We've got none. This government made sure of it. Right. And it's cost us an arm and a leg. This government made sure of that. Okay. That's the first point. Sorry, whānau, I get a little bit emotional. Karen, you get these bastards out. I'm telling you. They're not acting in our best interest. Then whose fucking best interest are they acting in? It's not mine and yours. It's not my mokopuna and your mokopuna. Wakey, people. Anyway, sorry for swearing. Can't help myself every now and then. So, that's fuel security. Food security. Now, this has been an interesting one, because if you don't have fuel security, you sure as heck don't have food security, because we know we were in the transport industry for over 40 years. We know that industry like the back of our hand, right? And my husband watched ice road truckies and truckies in Australia, and he goes, thank goodness I'm not a truckie no more. I said, important mahi being a truck driver, as we saw with the convoy 2022, the Canadian convoy. They can bring a country to a halt. Well, here's the issue. Our government can bring our country to a halt if we can't put fuel in our freaking trucks. Where's the food security in that? Where's the food security in that? What the hell's going on? Why would we country that's, in the bottom of the South Pacific, not want to be self-sufficient for F's sake. Hey? Because if there's a war, and hello, there's a war, and if that war spreads, hello, we're effed. Because we cannot supply our own fuel. You cannot supply your own fuel. You cannot get the kai to the market. Hello. So our food security is seriously at risk because of this dumbass policy of selling off and it reminds me of my wharepuni, and demolishing an asset. Oh my goodness me. Okay, so that's fuel and food security. What was the other topic? Sorry, I wrote them down just in case I left any. Didn't want to leave a topic out. Bill of Rights. Oh, okay. So this is so we've seen on Facebook, right? All the kōrero about that Victorian dickhead. Sorry. What's his name? I'm just trying to find. Sorry, get too emotional. I sort of lose my spot. No, don't want that one. I'm just trying to find. I've got quite a few things up sitting on my desktop, and it makes my StreamYard go a bit crazy because because it just it does. It just go. I'm trying to find it. I had it up there. Therapeutic products. Damn. Sorry, find that. Oh, here it is. Oh no. I wanted to talk about the and I thought I saved it, but I can't find it. Damn. Oh well, we'll go on to the next topic, which is talking about the social credit system. What I wanted to talk about in regards to food security, and I like I say, can't find it. Can't find it. Bugger. Might have been reading it and accidentally. Hang on, I know how I can find it. Oh, that's why I deleted my it was on my Facebook. Sorry, it was on my Facebook and I deleted it. Anyway, shall we go on to the next topic? I'll just try and multitask and see if I can find it again. While it's coming up. That was quite a passionate two points anyway. And I really wanted to talk about the state of Victoria and their premier there, because they were pushing through a legislation. And for me, it's not, let's not go down the rabbit hole in regards to conspiracy theories. Let's just keep to the facts, which I like to do, rather than go down the rabbit hole. And the fact is, we got to keep an eye on our legislation, because the concern was, and I did do the research on it, whānau, and I had some really good points sitting there, and I can't find them. Sorry, found it. Yoo-hoo. Okay. Whew. It sits in another, so I've got different platforms, and it was sitting in another platform, and that's why I couldn't find it in the platform that I had open. But anyway, carrying on with our kaupapa, because I was on a bit of a roll. Right. And we just want to see what it is highlighting the issues, whānau? So we talked about fuel security, food security, how this government has put both of that at risk, how they spent $175 million expanding Marsden Point, then says, shit, made a mistake. We're now going to decommission, reconstruct, deconstruct, and demolish at another 200 million, and the demolition alone is going to cost 60 million. So someone's making a shitload of money off our taxpayers' money, and there's absolute incompetence in the way that that's been managed. So you wonder why there are protesters up there, and I need to do a road trip, seriously need to do a road trip. Me and Sue at some stage need to plan a road trip to Marsden Point. And to further highlight the issues. So whānau, please go on. Dig in Marsden is the website. Please donate. They need kai, they need koha. All of this, we're talking about millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of our money being used, and yet to fight these bastards, we have to, give each other $5 to ensure we got petrol. Because when you stand up against the almighty government, the crown, the state, whatever you want to call them, then it costs you. It costs you your career. They try and vilify you. It costs you your reputation. It costs you personally a lot to stand up, and that's why people don't do it. But this issue is so fucking big. Sorry for swearing, hun. Sorry. So fucking big that we have to. We have no choice. We have no choice, whānau. And so we have to share each other. We have to support each other to do so. So there's Dig in Marsden where you can donate and support those warriors, because that's what they are. They're fighting to hold on to our refinery because these mofos down in Wellington don't see it as an asset. Just like these mofos in Taranaki don't see our wharepuni as an asset. So we have to go to war with these mofos, whānau. And what does that mean? It means that we protest, we occupy, we stand our ground, and we expose the bullshit. That's what that means. Okay. So the issue around food, because we're still talking about food security, that there were claims that a proposed bill will prevent Victorians from growing their own food, and has been circulated widely on social media, right? And the viral claims have been spread in all parts of Europe, Poland, Slovenia, Lithuania, so around the world, New Zealand. And the claim is centered around Victoria's agriculture legislation amendment bill 2022. Now, these are facts, and we've got to stick to facts, so we don't go down that rabbit hole and they try and bury us, right? Which claims to amend 11 different agricultural acts, right, to address measures including biodiversity, chemical use, veterinary practice, and food safety. Apparently, the bill has a bipartisan support. What does bipartisan mean? It's a bit like the occupation in Wellington. Everyone supports it. So that's what a bipartisan support means. In Wellington, the 120 MPs, members of Parliament, and their time is their time in Parliament is limited now because of it. all agreed to not come out and speak to the protesters. So there was no opposition in Parliament out of the 120 members of Parliament, out of ACT, National, Labour, who else? Greens and Māori Party. There was no opposition. So they've all put their careers at risk because of it. And so we need to understand that people are concerned. And why are they concerned? They are concerned because the government has warrants, inspections, and penalties. Warrant, inspections, and penalties. And people are claiming that these will lead to a ban on growing their food, their kai. So that's the facts. That's where all this issue has come from, right? And so let's not get into they're right, they're wrong, and it's because what's his name, the premier for Victoria is that mofo. The Koretake. I see his face, I just can't bloody remember his name. But anyway, he's behind all of this, right? And so remember, the issue is around government inspections, government warrants, and government penalties. Daniel Andrews, thank you, Coco. I can always rely on you, Coco. You're just so bloody awesome. Daniel Andrews and Victoria, you need to get that mofo out. Hey, so thank you all, Ricky. Yes, so the issue is we've got to keep an eye on our legislation and what are the impacts of that legislation. And if it's raising a red flag, there's a reason for raising a red flag. Again, it's this reward and penalty. It's training us. If we comply, we will be rewarded. If we don't comply, we will be penalized. It's training us, whānau. That's what the Health Act did. It trained us into warrantless searches. Remember that? Warrantless searches on our marae. Thank goodness Marty did the haka over that one, because that would have led on to warrantless searches. Well, I think they still can have warrantless searches anyway. But remember, then the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta added warrantless searches in the Three Waters reform. I mean, OMG, for goodness sake. For goodness sake. So what I'm trying to do, whānau, is I'm trying to paint a picture so we can have a clear view of what they are seeing, what our enemies are seeing. And I'm talking about our government. If our government are not acting in our best interest, then they're acting in someone else's best interest. The global elite, obviously. If they shut down our own oil refinery, put our food at risk and our fuel at risk, they're not acting on our behalf. They're using our money, but they're not acting on our behalf. So all of that's at risk because of them shutting, decommissioning, and on selling, because I'm not too sure. I don't think it's going to stay in state hands. I'm not too sure about that. So if anyone knows that aspect of Marsden Point, please let me know so that I'm fully aware. Haven't looked into, I know how much it's cost us, but I haven't looked into where the refinery has gone, if it's gone anywhere. So, and then talking about food security, all these red flags have been raised because of this mofo, Daniel Andrews, who's the Premier. Oh, yes, it's up there, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews. I've just seen it. So, and what they're saying, this is a conspiracy. Daniel Andrews is saying this is a conspiracy. But I have a legal background, and I know when laws are created, there are holes left in legislation. One, it creates work for lawyers, and two, if there are certain agendas, they know that certain clauses will allow that agenda to to continue. So I understand all of that from a legal perspective. Now, if ordinary Victorians are raising a red flag, and that red flag's been raised all around the world, that's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing, because it puts the Premier Daniel Andrews and his cronies on notice. So we saw the elections, and I don't know what that really means for Australia, but Scott Morrison lost his job last night. And he was an elitist himself. And he was behind the 501s. Now this leader, the new Labour leader, says he's going to revisit the 501s, because we know it's a racist. 501s is to get rid of it's white privilege, white supremacy, and white fragility, because the ones they're kicking home are the ones that look like me, the 501s, right? You only have to look odd or have a tāmoko, and you can be made a 501. So at least he's going to look at that. But because he's a Labour government, and we've seen all the tyranny come out of this Labour government, it raises a red flag for me. That's all I'm saying. Don't know if they've gone from the frying pan to the fire, or they've gone from the fire to the frying pan. I guess only time will tell, and only those living in the land of Moimoia, Australia, can tell us, the whānau over there. But I know whānau went to vote yesterday, and I did talk about preferential voting. Is that another option for us, rather than first past the post or mixed member proportional voting? So anyway, but that's a bit of a side issue. But I really wanted to talk about this food security. And when you have government inspectors or law enforcement or enforcement officers, as you did under the Health Act that we had, enforcement officers, and what I realised under the Health Act is that enforcement officers is the whole of government, all their subsidiaries, all state-owned entities, and anybody else they choose. That's an enforcement officer, right? So when there's government inspections, warrants, and penalties, that in itself, whānau, is a red flag. And so all our little researchers out here, because there's heaps of yous, and sorry, for some reason, and I don't know if it's Facebook that's done it to me, and it's doing my head in, because I've been sitting there for hours. I cannot read my private messages on my Donna Pokere-Phillips page. What they've done is it shows me the person who has messaged me, which takes up half the page, myself, where I can comment, but I can't actually read the message behind those two parts of the screen. And I've looked and I've tried, I've gone into settings, and I'm just bamboozled. So whānau, I have missed so many of your comments, and the fact that you've been sharing a lot of information, and they know you inform me. They know, and then they know I go and do my research. So it could be a ploy to stop me from reading your messages. I don't know, or it could be me, but I don't recall ever going into my settings and having a tutu with it. But that's what's happened. So if I haven't responded, that's why. And what I've said to you is to just private message me on Messenger under Donna Phillips, wearing a white top and yellow pants. And I at least can get it that way. So sorry for all those that I cannot respond to. That is the reason why. I'm just going to have a coffee there, a sip of a coffee. Oh, it's hot, darling. Whew. Been my lips. My husband just made me a coffee. Whew. Burn my lips. Anyway, so fuel security, food security, we need to keep an eye on the legislation. So you need to get used to going into our bills. And if there's any amendments, so you just Google or whichever platform you use, and go to Bills NZ. I think that will bring you up to all the bills that are sitting in the House currently. And I won't talk about it today, but I will talk about it in my live tomorrow, which also talks about food security. And I guess it's about health security, but I want to do an actual live on that one. And about a bill that's sitting in Parliament where they want to regulate rongoa. But I want to have a separate live on that and just have the time to peel away at those issues. So we're at huge risk here from this government. This is the incompetence, the how they've done this budget, and the Māori Labour MPs are going around doing this bloody road trip. We only got if JT's calculations are right, we only got 2 cents in the dollar. Māori only got 2 cents in the dollar, so that's not equity, is it? But anyway, that's another kōrero as well. But my point is, whilst whānau are still starving, can't put fuel in their car, can't find a job, can't put a roof over their head. You see these so-called leaders, but having a buffet of all this beautiful kai, and now doing a road trip to try and sell their budget to us. From a Māori perspective, 2 cents in the dollar is not something to jump up and down about. It's like settlements, 2 cents in the dollar is not something to jump up and down about. I mean, Māori, I've always said, are the canary in the mine. What they've done to us over 200 years, they're now doing to the rest of the whānau. Because we all have Pākehā whakapapa. I have English and Scottish whakapapa. My grandfather was a full-blooded Scotsman, and I love him to bits. But my point is that there are bigger stories to this, and don't let the Māori. Don't be fearful of te tiriti. Don't be fearful of equity. Don't be fearful of that whānau, because if we piki te ora, piki te wairua, piki te ora of Māori, we piki te wairua, and we piki te ora of our whole community. And we need to understand that. But I'm not talking about that today, but that's where my mind's just gone at the moment. What I'm talking about is fuel security, food security, keeping an eye on all the bills. So all you research buffs out there, just keep an eye and go into those bills and have a look, because that's what people have done. That's what they have done in Victoria, looking at the agriculture legislation amendment bill 2022, and there are 11 different agricultural acts to address. So it's talking about biodiversity, chemical use, veterinary practices, and food safety. So food safety is the red flag. And this was supported, it was a bipartisan support, which meant all the politicians supported it. So let's keep an eye on what they are doing, because we know we're in a global world now. We know that there are global elites controlling us. We know that Jacinda Ardern comes from, she's an alumni. These are all facts, whānau. You can debate the content, but these are facts. She comes from the alumni of the World Economic Forum, and Klaus Schwab is a globalist, right? Is a globalist. So I mean, this live isn't about that, but we've got to put everything in context, because once you have a global view, then you understand why and what's happening here at home. and why certain actions have happened here at home. Okay? So that's all. I think that's all I want to talk about that topic. Now, what's the next topic? I just got to bring it up because I typed it up. So we've talked about fuel security, food security. We've talked about what's happening over in Victoria under the dictatorship. I won't call him a leader. The dictatorship of Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews. And we talked about keeping an eye on legislation. And keeping an eye on the Agriculture Legislation Amendment Bill 2022 in Australia, because we know what happens there or happens in Canada or happens in the UK or the US will happen here. We also know that we are the pilots. And so that's, firstly, I'll talk about our Constitution. And I've said this many a times. To protect us, we have to have a constitution. At the moment, we don't. We do not have a written constitution. The constitutional makeup that we have thus far is the Constitution Act and the New Zealand Bill of Rights and the New Zealand Human Rights Act, as well as the case law that's come out of treaty law or treaty jurisprudence. So we've got case law that's come out of there, and we've got the signed documents, Te Tiriti or Waitangi, and the Treaty of Waitangi, which is the English version. The English version was signed by 37 chiefs from Tainui, including my tupuna, who I'm a direct descendant of. And that English version gave the Crown its mana, right? Prior to the signing of Te Tiriti and the treaty, we had He Whakaputanga, which was signed in 1935, which gave us international Māori, international recognition to trade. And to get that, you had to have a flag and you had to have a ship, right? You had to have a boat to be able to trade back then. So that's about He Whakaputanga, which probably needs its own live as well, its own kōrero, and Te Tiriti and the Treaty of Waitangi. Te Tiriti or Waitangi signed by 517 rangatira around the mutu, around the country. And the Treaty of Waitangi signed by 37 Tainui chiefs. And if the Crown gets its mana from the English version, then technically, I've said to my husband, Tainui signed away their sovereignty technically. But Monsell was the missionary at the time, and he could speak fluent Māori and English. And my husband's uncles, one time when we were talking about it, believed that he would have translated the English version very similar to the Māori version, and they would have thought they were signing something similar to the Māori version. Anyway, that's our whānau kōrero. But I'm just giving you an understanding. That is our constitutional makeup. It's not entrenched, which means it's not superior law. The only act that is entrenched, as I've said in other lives, is the Constitution Act, which gives the government the mana to govern us, right? So they didn't entrench our rights, our Bill of Rights. They didn't entrench our human rights. They only entrenched themselves. And it's not superior law. They've just secured their ability to govern by entrenching it in other legislations. So our Bill of Rights and our New Zealand Bill of Rights and our New Zealand human rights is very vulnerable. And as we saw during the occupation and Sue Gray, my other co-leader, who I'm so proud of, taking the government to court, Judge Matthew Palmer, who is the son of the author of New Zealand Bill of Rights, ironically, who Geoffrey Palmer, a Labour Prime Minister. And at the time, he did a white paper on creating our New Zealand Bill of Rights, and he included into that legislation Section 5. Now, Section 5 gives the Crown the ability to usurp our Bill of Rights, and that's exactly what his son Judge Matthew Palmer, did when a case went to court, and we lost because of Section 5. If the Crown could prove it was demonstrably justified to take our Bill of Rights away. So if we want to entrench, we have to get rid of Clause 5 if we want to entrench. And we also want to entrench our Human Rights Act, our New Zealand, because all of these are connected to international treaties, and all of these have come about because of tyranny in the past, because of fascism in the past. And so we just have to understand our own world. If we don't understand our own world, then we don't know how to protect ourselves. So does that make sense, whānau? Oh, hang on, whānau. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. So before I lose my train of thought, because all I want to do today is there's a lot of topics, but it's about connecting the dots, right? We have to connect the dots to understand exactly what's happening to us. And I don't even think these politicians are up to play with what's going on, to be honest. And but if they watch my lives, then they'll be more informed and educated. And then we can have debates about it. But yeah, all of this is every single aspect has been played out, and I because I look at the world in a global sphere, so I go from here and then I come in. I mean, that's how I naturally see the world. Whereas some people come from here and don't leave there. They departmentalize things, and because they're all in departments, they can't actually see the bigger picture. Or some people start from here and then they go out that way, but I start from here and then I come in, and I've always done that. That's just how I operate. Yeah, Coco, massive conflict of interest. And why I mean, that's a court case in itself, that the son of the author of the Bill of Rights, New Zealand Bill of Rights, had the right to make a judgment over that. Huge. So what that actually did for me, holding a legal background, is put a serious question mark behind the judiciary. And then we as Māori, Coco, and other Māori, koe, we as Māori know that the judiciary hasn't acted kindly, starting from the police to the courts to corrections. We've been abused, exploited every step of the way since colonisation. And I guess what the pandemic has done is put other ordinary, hardworking New Zealanders in the same boat as us. They actually now know what it feels like to be Māori, to be discriminated against, to be treated like second-class citizens. I mean, it even feels like that we're even treated less than animals, and we're not respected in the way that we should be respected as the treaty, other side of the treaty or te tiriti equation. So for us to have any understanding and using our history to move forward together as a nation, we first got to understand what's happened in the past. And we can't be afraid of that, whānau. It is what it is. None of us can change it. But if we don't acknowledge what's happened in the past, what we're seeing now is history actually repeating itself. So You can trust someone like me who's been there, done that. My tupuna have been there, done that. We know exactly how a tyrannical politician or government thinks, because we've been there, done that. So be guided by our experience, and let's come together for the sake of all of us, for the Indigenous people of Aotearoa and the rest of our whānau in Aotearoa. We need to come together to save ourselves, actually, from ourselves. So, sorry, I do diverge often, but I hope you're keeping up with me. So the Bill of Rights. So we probably need a written constitution. There's only 2 or 3 other countries in the world that don't have a written constitution, but there needs to be a lot of work around that. Because if we don't have a written constitution, what we've allowed in is tyranny and fascism. Even though the US have a constitution, they still have that to fall back on, we don't. We have nothing to fall back on. Okay, so the social credit system, why this kaupapa is important. I know it's a long one, whānau, but hang in there, because I'm trying to give us a global view of everything that's happening. So we're talking about fuel security or lack of, food security or lack of. We've talked about what's happening over in Victoria with their Agriculture Legislation Amendment Bill 2022, and the concerns that their people, Victorian people have, and the dictator, the Premier Daniel Andrews, and I think his time is limited, right? And the reasons, and they can easily throw people into the conspiracy basket, but there are legitimate, genuine concerns. Why? Because of the government powers, the government's ability to inspect, the government's ability to dish out warrants, and the government's ability to penalise. And within that Agriculture Legislation Amendment Bill, they were looking at biodiversity issues, they were looking at veterinary issues and food issues, and that's why there's been a massive red flag. And so we need to, as whānau from Aotearoa, as Kiwis, we need to understand the fear, right? The fear. Why is the fear there? Not get caught up in the conspiracy of the fear, but why is the fear there? The fear is that they are afraid they're going to lose their rights. And if they grow food, that they are going to be penalised. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. So let us take a leaf out of their page and make sure that we don't have similar legislation going through our parliament. And that's why you need to keep an eye on what's happening down there. And if you find anything, you now have to contact me through Messenger, because I can't read your messages, private messages on my Facebook page. So Donna Phillip is the name for Messenger, and that's where you send all your stuff to, whānau. Yeah, and I've been trying to sort that out for days. Okay, so that's about food security. Then I spoke to you about our constitutional makeup and where it sits there, and that we do need to do further lives about he whakaputanga and te tiriti and the treaty. And I have done it in the past, but I think my role is to inform and educate. I believe that's my role, to then allow you to hang some of your ideas, understandings, your philosophical beliefs, and go and do your own research, because this isn't about Donna being the be all end all of your research. I'm only your beginning. I'm only at the starting point of your journey. You have to go and then you have to inform and educate yourself. And then you have to inform and educate your whānau, and then inform and educate your community. And that's how it rolls, whānau. Okay. Social credit. So, and I've spoken about this in the past. So we have in the House at the moment, and so it's New Zealand Parliament bills and laws. If you want to go to www.parliament.nz, bills and laws is where you go. And in currently sitting there under bills is the Digital Identity Services Trust Framework Bill. It's like, gosh, can they think of an easier name like Social Credit Bill, maybe? Or is that too obvious? Oh, gosh. Hey, Social Credit Bill may be too obvious. But basically, that's what that bill is about. So what... So what? So where is it at? Where is it at? That bill is sitting. So it was published on the 19th of October 2021. I'm trying to see where it's sitting in the process. So, but the background is December 2016, whānau, they thought of this. December 2016. Australian Post released a white paper, A Frictionless Future for Identity Management. So go on there, whānau. Here, I'll copy this so you can go and have a look and go do some further research, because I actually haven't read this. So I'm just posting it now to everyone. So click onto it. The departmental disclosure statement for the bill refers to this white paper report as something which informed or was relevant to the policy giving effect by the bill. So, I just finished saying, keep an eye out on what's happening in Australia and around the world. The Agriculture Legislation Amendment Bill, right? That's what's happening in Australia. Well, I've only just seen this now. This come about because of the Frictionless Future for Identity Management white paper. So that's how it started, December 2016. And it was an Australian white paper. So anyway, whānau. Okay. I tried to post that and they wouldn't let it, so I'll try again. So maybe I'm getting blocked, whānau. Too much information gives you too much power, whānau. Oh, yeah, it's come through now. Sorry. Yep, it's come through. Before it wouldn't go through. So I think, where are we at with the bills? No. I just wanted to see if I think it's up to its third reading. Yeah. Anyway, the point is it's still sitting there. Now, so why is this bill important to know? I've got another document. Hang on, whānau. Just have patience with me. I did have it up there. Oh, here it is. Thank goodness. Got so much on my desktop. Doing my head in. Okay, and I've talked about this in the past. I've talked about this kaupapa, and this is connected to that bill, right? And again, it's all about connecting the dots. It's not going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. You've got to always see the light. And when you stick to facts, they can't push you down that rabbit hole and bury you in it. And I always walk a fine line, and I just thank my legal training for that, to be honest. My inquisitive mind and my suspicious mind as well. But anyway, I've been through too much, whānau, to believe everything that governments tell me or tell us. So this report and is called Re-Imaging Regulation for the Age of AI, New Zealand Pilot Project. So I'm going to copy this and for your sake, so you have a copy, and I'm going to post it up. I'm just going to have a breather, just have a coffee. Might need something stronger in this, but anyway. All our biscuits gone, then.
No?
All our biscuits gone.
Biscuits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the world, I've just posted it, whānau. So the World Economic Forum created a white paper. So these are unelected elitists, right? Unelected elitists. And I don't care who you are. If you think that that's okay and you are a friend of mine, then we need to reassess the friendship. We need to reassess the friendship. With whānau, well, we can't help it because, we're tied by blood. But if you think that a elite, unelected globalist can write a white paper and use us, a sovereign country, as a fucking pilot and think that's okay, and the government think that's okay, then we need to rethink our government. And we need to rethink who our friends are. Because the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, is a friend of this government. And is it treasonable? We don't have anything, I think, apart from in the Crimes Act, where we can hold politicians accountable for treason. Now, that might be something we need to consider. Is it treasonable that the World Economic Forum, run by billionaires, can develop a white paper that becomes our policy? Anyway, the white paper came out in June 2020. And remember the other link that I put up there, that the white paper for our digital ID bill that's sitting in Parliament now, that white paper come out in 2016. So there's a lot of work, a lot of background work that has gone into this. And New Zealanders aren't even aware of it. We're not aware, not once did this government campaign on that, of stealing and capturing our private information that has the ability to be sold on to corporations. Remember, whānau, data is the new gold. Data is the new gold. Your data creates money for certain organizations. Your information doesn't create you money, creates them money. And you will have to pay to get your own data. And we've seen signs of that anyway. But so the content, what's really important about this is that we are the pilot for artificial intelligence for the whole world. So you put that and that bill together, and voila, you're creating a social credit system. Now, you remember seeing that viral video of China where all the people were locked up in their apartments and they were screaming. People were jumping out of windows because they were starving. Enforcers were killing their animals on the street. I mean, I showed it on a live. And it would make the hair on your back and your neck stand up. That is social credit, folks. And this white paper, from the WEF that Jacinda Ardern is an alumni to is another phase in putting that into action. We are the pilot for the rest of the Western world, or the whole world for that fact matter. And also that digital ID bill. It's so long. I always forget it because it's so long. It should be called the social credit bill. I'll call it the social credit bill because we know what we're talking about. The social credit bill and the social credit white paper, and I have put those links up in the comments for you to do further research. So here's what the introduction says. Over the past decade, artificial intelligence has emerged as the software engine that drives the fourth industrial revolution. They call it the fourth industrial revolution. It ain't a revolution, whānau. It's fascism. It's tyranny. You misbehave. What did I talk about? I talked about penalties and rewards. And all these legislations are about penalties and rewards. It's grooming us for tyranny. These are facts. That's why politicians and media alike cannot get me for conspiracy, because I stay in the fact realm, and I'm teaching you how to do it as well. You start getting into the flat earth conspiracies, then you're effed. You're buggered. You stay in the realm of reasonableness. You stay in the realm of facts and connect the dots, because you have to connect the dots. One on its own does not tell you a picture. But what I'm doing today is I'm connecting all the dots for you so that you have the same picture as I do. You have the same understanding as I do. And hopefully the media that watch me and whoever else is watching me, the dark side of Facebook, I guess, or social media. Yeah, I'm followed by lots of different people. I hope I'm informing and educating you as well along the way, because it's important that you understand exactly what's happening, that you might end up coming over onto our side before it's too late. Too late for you, because what we all have in common, or most of us, is that we'll eventually get married, or we are married. We'll eventually have children, or we have children, and we will eventually be grandparents, or we are already grandparents. Doesn't matter which side of the divide you're on. So this is about the future generations. Okay, So the part of this project that you need to go and have a look at is the project overview, and just go into, working with New Zealand government. Cindy? Oh, my Lord. So New Zealand is the sponsored government for this project. A number of initiatives in New Zealand, such as the government's algorithm assessment report. So I'll type that up. Hang on. So we need to look at that. It's called the algorithm. Hang on, I'll just type that out. Algorithm assessment report. And here we go again, whānau, our favourite university. Holy moly, no surprises there. So, cool. We'll have to have a cross for that university. Gosh, If our children want to go to university, don't send them to the University of Otago. It's becoming that university. It is funded by Bill Gates, whānau. So anyway, the algorithm assessment report, and remember the disinformation project, yeah, well, they were funded by the Prime Minister's department, and that was done through the University of Otago as well, who's also funded by Bill Gates. So the algorithm assessment report, the Centre for AI and Public Policy, Otago University report, government use of AI in New Zealand. So we need to look at that Centre for AI and Public Policy. So it's artificial intelligence and public policy that's moving us whānau into a social credit system. And the World Economic Forum says this project is seen as an opportunity to work with leading experts in AI. And remember Dr. Hatutawa, Sanjanam Hatutawa, well, he's classed as one of those experts. And he's the one that ousted the dirty dozen, remember? Just recently. And then someone, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook, someone created a new dirty dozen, like the media outlets, the government, the Prime Minister. I laughed when I saw that. But anyway, in all seriousness, that university, so when I've talked in the past about sponsored research, sponsored science, and sponsored media, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, sponsored research. So they use our own universities, they use our own taxpayers' money to do their dirty deeds. And that's what we're exposing, whānau. Okay. What's important on page 5 is to look at the project timeline. So the September to December was the scoping in 2019. Ironically, just before the pandemic happened. And it's all the timings, like even the monkey pox, right? The timing of that, and I'll talk about that later. But this is, it's more than a bloody coincidence. You don't have to be Einstein to see the patterns. It's all about patterns, whānau? You got to check out the patterns, and the patterns will tell you a story, and it's not the story they're telling you. So September to December 2019, we were told in December 2019 about the pandemic, right? The co-designing was January to June 2020 during lockdown, right? The testing was July to December 2020 during the red lights system, right? And then the scaling, so the red light system come in 2021. The scaling is January onwards, 2021. Encourage broad adoption of the design governance, broad adoption, and frameworks and tools. So that's that social credit bill that's sitting there in Parliament, right? That's the broad adoption. Just so that we are clear on where everything is sitting. So that's that one. Okay, where am I on my list of things to talk about today? So we talked about social credit system, and it is about punishment and rewards. It's also about forcing compliance. So that's the cashless society, right? And if you're on a benefit, then basically beneficiaries are effed. Why do I say that? Because the government can pull at any time. If you're non-compliant, that's what social credit is about. They can control your benefit. And when we look at food security, if there's a food shortage, and people are talking about that at the moment, bringing in food passes, so to get discounts and food from the government. If we go into, and we're in a recession. 3 recessions equals a depression. I think we've been through 2 recessions, or we're going through one or two. Going into the second recession, we go into a third recession, we're in a depression. So we're back to the 1930s. Bit scary, whānau, but that's the reality. That's the reality. So if we have no fuel security, no food security, we're effed. If we cannot rely on ourselves, we're effed. In this climate that we're in now. I don't want to be a pessimist. I am telling you this information so you can prepare yourself in your whānau. There are a lot of whānau that are now moving into communities because we're moving into a similar space as the 1930s. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Things will get better, but we've got to survive this part of it, and we're in it. We're in it. So, okay. Yeah, and compliance is important. If you don't comply, they can shut your bank account down. We saw that in Canada with the convoy. So yeah, all of these things are leading to punishment and reward, which are leading to a social credit system. And like I say, I've shown you the documentation and the bills, so I'm not making this up, whānau, but what I'm doing is showing it to you, so you can go and do your own research and help me with your research as well. And I think that's why they've created a block in my private messages, because they know that you support me. They know that you share information with me, and they know that I can peel away all the bullshit and come out with the little gems that are within all that stuff. So social credit is about fascism. And tyranny of the unelected and the elite. And we're talking about the WHO. This is happening right now. The pandemic treaty. And how there are 194 member states who have the ability of signing our sovereignty away to the WHO, who is funded by who? No other than Bill Gates. He as a private individual behind the US funds the WHO. This man has so much influence on sovereignty around the world, on policies around the world, it ain't fucking funny. Now, we have the outbreak of monkeypox. And I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen it. And I won't show it online because, I'm still digging away at this, but apparently that there was an assimilation, as there was with the pandemic. Before the pandemic happened with COVID-19, there was an assimilation. And what this means is they do a computer assimilation, that if it's released, this is what's going to happen. So it's a pandemic via computer. And the same thing with monkeypox. Apparently monkeypox has been around for a long, long time. The irony is the timing of the monkeypox, and it's in Australia. If it's in Australia, it's coming here. So are they putting this pandemic a treaty in under urgency, so it takes the mana away from your so-called sovereign state, and gives the mana to a handful of people to dictate what happens in a pandemic, to dictate lockdowns, to dictate to our police and our army. That, whānau, is scary shit. And it's been signed off as we speak. 22nd. And is our Health Minister Andrew Little over there? We saw Nanaia Mahuta talking to Dr. Tedros. I can't pronounce his name, but Tedros will do. the Director General of WHO, who doesn't have a fine human rights background himself. I mean, there have been serious accusations of human rights breaches, deaths, murders, and Tamir. Hey, I haven't even bothered to delve into that, but I'm just saying there were accusations that Dr. Tedros has a shocking human rights background. Here's the thing, the unelected bureaucrats that are funded again by Bill Gates. It's fucking scary, whānau. WHO will have the power to tell us when we can and cannot leave home. They can force vaccination. They can force the police and our military to act against us with this pandemic treaty because they will hold the power to do so. This is globalization happening right now. You can call it a new world order, one world order, globalization. It's a centralization of power in the hands of a few. It's tyranny and it's fascism. And they say it's for your and my good. Your and my health. What a load of fucking bullshit. How do we stop it? There's a petition going around, and I try to copy the petition. The petition was created by Alan Simmons. It's been pushed out by Outdoors and Freedom Party, which I'm the co-leader of, and I try to put it on my page, whānau. There's also an international one that's out there, and I'll try and find them and see if I can put them up on my page, just so that they're sitting there, whānau. But that, there's an international petition, and there's also a petition which I couldn't. I went on and I signed up on it, and it wouldn't let me, so I don't know what's happening. So that's how they're controlling elections, protests. I mean, you saw that a number of 11 protesters got arrested trying to cross over the Harbour Bridge. Since when has that been an illegal protest? I mean, if it wasn't for our people crossing over the Harbour Bridge when we protested, we wouldn't have been able to do those land marches in Tamir. So since when has crossing over the Harbour Bridge become illegal? And people are saying, oh, it's an illegal process. Please tell me what an illegal protest is. Please define. And then they say, oh, it's an illegal occupation. Māori have said that what happened in Parliament was an illegal occupation. Please explain to me what a legal occupation is. Please explain to me what a legal protest is. They can't. Because it's our democratic right to protest. And if you notice, the police, they come and they use their brutality again, right, against the protesters. And then as soon as that happened, they were in front of the media trying to explain themselves away, trying to mitigate what had happened. E kira. We need to wake up, whānau. We need to smell the roses and see the world for what it is. We need to take off those tinted shades. Or stop looking into the sun and being blinded by the sun. Aye, hikoi and occupation are our way of protesting. And now they're trying to make it illegal. You take protesting away, we don't have a democracy, whānau. And they try to do that through the occupation. So all of these, please, gosh, I can talk about this forever. What I don't want you to do is get bloody depressed, right? Even though it can be difficult. Do not get depressed. Do not feel overwhelmed, because that's exactly what they want you to feel. Go out, as me and my darling do. Oh, and I told you in other lives, so we haven't been for a few days, but the whole of Hamilton pools, aqua pool, and it's huge. It's Hamilton's the 4th largest city in New Zealand. They have a lot of staff there. They had to shut down because they all got sick with COVID. And I rang up Hamilton City Council and I said, how could they be sick with COVID when they were mandated to get the vaccine? And I'm picking, they probably all got the boosters at the same time. So they were vaccinated at the same time, got the boosters at the same time, and all sick. And she got really titchy with me and ended up hanging up on me. Well, hello. Just talking about the obvious here. They're all vaccinated. They're not supposed to get sick. And also, what I've been highlighting for days, weeks actually, is long COVID is a code for vaccine injured. You listen to the people on the news and you listen to their symptoms. That's vaccine injured. It's not long COVID, because you're stupid enough if you believe the government when they say, oh, that vaccine, that COVID-19 is harming and killing our people. It's not. It's vaccine injuries. I know this firsthand, whānau. I know the narrative, and I know this firsthand, and I know the bullshit when I see it, because I've experienced it. No one can take away personal experience. I'm a protester and an occupier from way back. And now, even Māori are saying it's illegal. Like, what's happening, whānau? We wouldn't be where we are today as Māori, and we're not in a good place as Māori if you didn't have people like me protesting and occupying way back then. Now I'm literally protesting and occupying for the life and future rights and freedoms of my mokopuna. Literally. This is even bigger than Indigenous issues. This is a human issue. Wow, I've covered my list, whānau. Done my rant for the day. There's still heaps of you on there, so you must be interested in what I have to say. Going through, thank you, Jules. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Patiti here. Kui, Louise, Aya, Christine, Deborah, Mata, Jewel, JJ, Jan, Coco, Michelle. You fellas are just bloody awesome. Bloody awesome. Thank you for taking out this time. And how long have I been talking? I mean, I don't. Oh, there it is up there. Nearly an hour and a half, whānau. So this was a longie. A David longie. But it makes up for those days that I didn't actually do my lives. Last weekend we had whānau, so I had whānau time. You got to have whānau time. You got to have downtime. You've got to have that balance, whānau. So I had my mokopuna's 21st. It was beautiful. We had whānau here staying with us. That was beautiful, and it was time out. That was time out for me. Then on the Monday, I had to get back into battle mode in regards to our wharepuni, fighting for the survival of our wharepuni. It just breaks my heart. So I'm constantly in battle mode, but you got to remember your why to keep you in that battle, because we are in a battle, we are in a war, we're in a spiritual war, we're in a political war, and we're in for the fight of our mokopuna's lives. And so we have to have time out, and we have to have friends. We have to have fun. And I've met some amazing, amazing people on this journey I would never have met if it wasn't for this frickin' pandemic. So there have been some blessings, and we've got to look for the blessings, and we've got to look and appreciate the small things in life, actually. So, when I talked about fuel security, food security, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what type of furniture you've got, what type of house you have. It doesn't matter. When you're in survival mode, as we are, the whole world is in survival mode. The three important things is food security, fuel security, and the protection of our rights and freedoms. That's it. That's it. And the Outdoors and Freedom Party are fighting for all three. Now, if you look at these other parties and they're not fighting for all three, then they are colluding with this government. They are not in opposition. And if they are colluding with this government, they need to get the F out. They need to move over. Thank you for warming my seat. I'm coming in. Imagine that. Imagine me having that platform. Security will be marching me out more times than not, I can tell you that. It will be pretty disruptive. But hey, they've gotten away with too much for too long. If we get the numbers, whānau, we can be the difference. We can make the difference. You've got to get out there. You've got to help the Outdoors and Freedom Party if you want to make a difference. I'm in Hamilton. In Kirikiriroa, I'm looking for foot soldiers. So again, they've blocked me. Something's happened on my Donna Pokere-Phillips private message. Something's happened there. Messenger. Go to Messenger, look for Donna Phillips. I'm wearing a white top, a little bit thinner than I am today. White top and yellow shorts, standing next to my daughter and my mokopuna, who was newborn there. She's 2 years old now, so it's an old photo. It's an oldie, but a good photo. But I put on a little bit of weight since then. So anyway, whānau, thank you so much. So many comments, and I am going to go through and read some of your comments after this. Sorry, normally I like to put up a few, but because I had so much to talk about today, I think it was important for you all to get that global view, right? And so we can see exactly what's happening with this government. Love yous all. Love yous all. What does JJ say? And the Herald just tweeted about monkeypox and why we should be worried. Oh yeah, that's here we go again. It's the pandemic. It's COVID-19 all over again. But remember, with COVID-19, there was an assimilation. So they did an assimilated process just before it hit the world. And they've done the same with monkeypox. I'm not going to debate here whether this is man-made or not. The fact of the matter, the fact is it's there. The fact is it's there. But, once bitten, twice shy. Once bitten, twice shy, whānau. Oh, thank you, Mandy. Mandy says, thanks for your strength and resilience, Donna. You keep us all positive and moving forward with more knowledge and aroha. Thank you, because that's my aim. My aim is not to depress you, even though it's depressing. It is. It's really depressing, and I find it hard myself to keep my spirits up. But doing things like going to the pools is so important to me and my darling, because that's how we do it. Having social nights out with whānau is important to us, because that's how we do it. It gives us time to unwind and then build our strength up again. And remember, we're in a war. We are actually in a war. It's just not we're in a war that's not dropping bombs on us, but they're certainly killing us. They're certainly killing us. And we need to do a lot of research into the University of Otago. So all those that are interested in research, go in there. If you find any information out, I've shared a lot of information today. Go in there, start digging, and let's maybe boycott the University of Otago. Let's start making noises. Because all the research and the report always go back to the University of Otago. So who's running the University of Otago? What's happening there? Right? Dr. Guy Hatchett. Also go in and check out all of Dr. Guy Hatchett's reports. And he talks about, in one of his reports, evidence, and he's evidence-based. He is a scientist. He advised both National and Labour. And he was able to show the pattern. So when the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine happened between February and November 2021, the curve, I guess, the rollout, that's where the extra 2,000 deaths happened, was during that rollout. So it correlated with the rollout of the vaccines. And there are two reports done by the University of Waikato, actually, that corroborated his report. So there is science out there, and there's more science, and the science is shifting. The science is shifting. That's why they're shifting their narrative. If you notice, long COVID actually is a code word for vaccine injured, because all the ones that are vaccine injured have long COVID. Well, if you got the vaccine, you shouldn't be injured, should you? And you shouldn't have COVID. Those sorts of things. They're all red flags. They're all dog whistles, and the science. The unsponsored science is out there. The University of Otago is sponsored science, sponsored data. Okay, I've just got a visitor in, and so I'm going to sign out now, whānau. Kia pai tō rā. Have an awesome day, and I'll read all your comments after this. Kia pai tō rā, ka kite. Kia ora rā.